Yo, what is going on, y'all? I'm Cavell Anderson, and we are back with another Veve and Ecomi video. This video right here is one that came out a couple of hours ago, and I've been getting sent this video a lot since it's released. I did watch a little bit of it. I want to know why people were sending this to me at the rate that they were, and I can tell this is very concerning because this guy is not a hater. Like, there's a lot of haters in the Veve community, and they just don't get taken serious whatsoever. But when a guy like this speaks where he's not a hater, he's using only facts, and he has a bearish point of view for the Omi token, you have to listen to this. And I definitely have nothing but respect for this guy. And even though we have differing opinions, this is solid. This is 100% solid. Every point that he made is pretty much valid, especially with the level of understanding that he has of the project. He doesn't deep dive it all the time. And also, if you're an investor, especially if you invest in multiple different projects and things like that, you don't just go based off of what a company says. We go based off of what's actual fact and what is happening right now. And then as more variables come, then you start to consider those. As opposed to a lot of us who are in the project, we go based on their history. We know that things are going to come in the future, so we take them at their word for things that's going to come, since they have not failed us yet in that regard. So that being said, we're going to jump into it, analyze this video, basically listen to what he has to say, and I'm going to address some of the points that's been very concerning for a lot of people hitting me up with this video. So, yeah, be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on notifications, and also check out his original video as well. Show some love.
Let's talk about the curious case of Omi and the Veve NFT platform. So here you have an app that has major licenses with brands like DC Comics, Cartoon Network, and Ghostbusters. They've fully launched an augmented reality system where you can view your NFTs in a more unique way than any other NFT platform. And every time it releases a new drop, it completely sells out within the first few minutes, often making millions of dollars in revenue in a single day. And yet, at the same time, when we look at Omi, which is a cryptocurrency that is tied to this platform, it's been a completely different story. The past couple of months have been rough. After a big surge at the start of the year when it went all the way up to a penny per coin, it's now had about an 85% decline from its peak. Some people have pointed to this and basically said that was the bubble, it burst and it was an overhyped platform. But others are saying that the lower price now makes Omi the most undervalued cryptocurrency in the NFT space. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the future of Omi going forward, and specifically, I want to discuss a couple of important topics that I haven't seen covered in similar videos on YouTube, and that I don't think enough people understand, but which to me seem absolutely critical to whether or not Omi is a good investment. And finally, I'm going to give my own investment strategy when it comes to both Omi and the Veve platform. Now, if you're new here, my name is Giancarlo, and this is the channel where I do investor guides on the biggest NFT projects right now. And I'm coming at this from the angle of someone who used to be a stock analyst on Wall Street and who spent years advising hedge funds on how to invest in the media and gaming sectors. Now I'm going all in on NFTs, so if you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, because this is still, a pretty small channel and every little bit helps to spread the videos.
So this in itself tells you his mindset and his perspective. He's very experienced in the space, and also he's from Wall Street. So I mean, clearly they're going to be a little bit more cautious as well. Like, they're not going to be quick to believe a company, because 9 times out of 10 he's studied many companies that's come out, promises something, and has failed many times. So you have to be wise, you have to be smart, and very conservative, I feel like, when it comes to a lot of things. And that's usually the mindset we see from guys who actually are genuinely good at what they do. And I can tell you, he's definitely good at what he does. To not be focusing on Omi 24/7 and not be constantly just looking at this project and this project only, and to have the level of understanding that he does, he's very good at what he does. You can't hate on that, you can't knock that, and yeah, and nothing wrong with criticizing Omi. There's nothing wrong at all with criticizing Omi, but this is what criticism is. Now, if the standard of criticism towards Omi was this here, you would never see anybody disagreeing or just flat out hating or anything like that, or hating certain types of people. This is what criticism is, not what the Omi community does. What the Omi community does is they cry, whine, and sit here and ask the same stupid question over and over. Oh, when is this coming? You promised it was coming in May, but oh, we're moving to a new exchange, now it's not coming. That's what we have in the Omi community. This is what we need. With more devil advocates talk like this, we can expand our minds, the way that we think, talk back and forth, and really actually create better understanding. There's nothing like this valuable from the Omi community right now, especially on the other side.
Alright, so first, for those that haven't heard of Omi and Veve, let me just give you a super quick intro. The basics are these three terms. So first you have Veve, which is an app that allows you to buy digital collectibles, aka NFTs, and which draws from some of the best licensing deals in the NFT space today. So they'll have drops through the app where you can buy characters like Batman and Superman, and because they work as NFTs, it means you get, ownership of your digital collectible, and you can hold it or sell it as you wish. So that's Veve, and then you have Ecomi, which is the company that is primarily known for the creation of the Veve platform. And then finally you have Omi, which is the cryptocurrency that runs everything on the Veve platform, and for most people this is the preferred way of investing in the growth of the Veve app. But as you'll see in a few minutes, I actually disagree with this. Now the reason Omi is important is because it's used for everything that happens on the platform. So when you download the app and you buy in-game currency, what you receive is something that's called gems, and $1 will always equal 1 gem. But in the background, these gems are tied to an equivalent amount of Omi coins. And when you buy an item with your gems, say a Batman NFT for 100 gems, then at that point, the Omi coins associated with those 100 gems are burned. And here you have one of the biggest reasons people are even investing in Omi. Because basically how it works is that the Veve app contains a reserve wallet that is meant to distribute all the Omi that you need when users buy things on the app. So basically it needs to always have enough to distribute gems to users. And so when you buy Batman with those 100 gems and you burn the Omi that's tied to that, the balance of Omi in the Veve reserve wallet goes down. And so to replenish this reserve wallet, the Ecomi team buys Omi from the secondary market to then put into the reserve wallet. And this has the effect of reducing the overall circulating supply of Omi tokens, which then makes this a deflationary asset.
See, now, the level of understanding and being able to break that down, like, to take something as complex as Omi's tokenomics and break it down in the simplest forms, like, this is what I see in my head, but can't really explain it too well. To be able to do that, like, he knows what he's talking about. Now, this is why, I definitely appreciate the perspective, because he actually understands what he's talking about, and he's drawing his conclusion from a place of understanding. Usually when someone criticizes Ecomi or Omi, they don't even understand this much, and they're making criticisms based off of not understanding. He's fully understanding and still getting to a certain conclusion, and that is definitely worth looking into. If you fully understand the project and you still are getting to a certain conclusion, you definitely have to take that seriously.
Now this is just a super high level overview, right? If you really want to get into the tokenomics, I recommend this video here on YouTube, as he gets super detailed. And if you plan on investing, I think you should basically have that type of understanding. But now with all that said, the investment thesis is pretty simple from the bull perspective, right? And this is how they'll frame it. 1, Veve is a great NFT platform that will have huge demand in the coming years.
It's a fact.
2, more NFTs bought on Veve equals more Omi burn, which then equals more Omi buybacks. And 3, the value of remaining Omi coins goes up because these buybacks make it a deflationary asset.
And there's also the facts that that Veve is going to be creating more utility, or Ecomi is going to be creating more utility for the token as well. The place that we are in right now with the project, they have been focusing so heavily on getting Veve up and running, and they've had setback after setback after setback just focusing on getting Veve up and running. So they haven't really, they did, like what a lot of investors complain about, is they took a step back from the crypto side and focusing on how to make the token attractive, because the first objective is getting the product up and working and really focusing on making sure the product is good enough to do what it was intended to do. Now, the problems that come from, token burns and things like that, those problems are something that they're free to focus on a little bit more once the Veve platform is actually up and running. But this is the level that we're at right now, which is at the level where they had to get Veve up and running first. Like, unlike a lot of other crypto projects, they actually wanted a working product before trying to boost a token or boost awareness of the brand or anything like that. They were not. You had to get to a certain place first, so they haven't really focused on the token as much as a lot of people would have wanted, and that's the main thing people are crying about so much.
Now, I am going to take a look at point number 1 to see what kind of traction this platform might have going forward. But first, I want to talk about point number 2, which are the buybacks. You see, if you watch a bunch of videos here on YouTube or some of the articles that call for a much higher Omi price, they really make a big deal about these buybacks. But when you look at it a bit more closely, you start to realize there's something off with this theory. And to understand that, we have to look at how much Omi is actually burned. Okay, so there are 2 types of purchases that you can make on Veve.
one thing that I will say is, starting off already, he says there's two types of purchases you can make on Veve, and he's talking about buybacks. So, buybacks, while the primary market and then the secondary market is all that's really fueling buybacks right now, that's not all that Veve is going to have to offer. They are going to have things like gamification. They're going to have the Master Collectors program. We don't know how that's going to benefit and change things. They also have announced that they're going to be making it so you can literally use Omi in the marketplace to start buying using your Omi directly, which adds a little bit more utility. Also, they're going to be doing the Veveverse. And the Veveverse is going to be upgradable. You're going to be able to do things like buy land, build on top of that land, and change the color of your cars and stuff, have garages for your cars and vehicles and things like that. This is all stuff that's in the plans, and this is much more utility for the token as well. I have watched some of this video. I don't think that he addresses any of this. I am re-listening this time around, so this is just some of the things that I know that he didn't really factor in. The fact that, yeah, these two things that you're focusing on, if these two were the case, it would look a lot scarier than it is. But even I think he's still being conservative, even when it comes to those two things. But when you have all the other things that Veve has planned, and also you have to factor in the fact that after they have accomplished the things that they have planned, and then they take a look at things and see, okay, this is not doing what we want to do for our token holders, so now we have to adapt again. Maybe change some burn rates, maybe do something else that brings more value to our token holders. Because you got to take into consideration the fact that the Omi team actually owns a lot of these tokens as well. You think that they want to be left holding a bunch of crap? No, like it's best for them to have value from the token as well, which means they have to make this thing valuable. So at some point, if it's not working how it should be working, if it's not working and going according to plan, then they're going to have to do something to make the token a little bit more valuable. So that's one of the things that people are betting on too. The fact that their foresight is very good, and even though they're going in a straight line, putting the token what seems like it's been last up until this point, it's still they're the type of team that will get to it and has proven that they're going down the line, getting to the things that needs to be addressed. So yeah.
And each has their own burn rate. So first, when you make that $100 purchase of Batman in the platform, $10 from that is that first set to be burned, but then it goes down to $7 because Apple takes a 30% platform fee. In other words, only 7% of every direct transaction is burned.
This is also going to change when you have the desktop version. You'll be able to buy directly from Veve. I'm pretty sure is what the team said in a recent AMA. So this data is accurate to an extent, but there's constant news and there's ever-changing news when it comes to the platform. Like, they're trying to solve this problem. They're in talks trying to solve certain problems, and this is one of those problems that they've been working on. And that's one of the issues right now with technical analysis and doing certain analysis right now, because you can only go based off the history of what Veve has done thus far up until this point. But you don't take into consideration all the setbacks that Veve has right now, all the things going wrong that they have to overcome and try to work into their equations and things like this, all the stuff that they never planned for that's happening that they had to deal with. You're not taking that into consideration, as opposed to what Veve is going to look like when they completely have everything down packed, 100% working how it should be, and all they have to really focus on is dropping content and creating more content. Because they had to deal with having a platform prepared for 5,000 people and then 300,000 people ending up on the platform. So take that into consideration. You start off with a platform for 5,000 people, then it jumps to 300,000 people. Stuff was breaking that you wasn't expecting to even have to stress test this much until a year later. So they had to kick it in gear and work super fast to make a lot of this stuff happen. So yeah, this is just stuff that you have to take into consideration. And if you're not deep diving the project and knowing this at all times, like and knowing every small nuance that changes, you're not going to know this stuff. So honestly, this is very good research. This is very, very good research that he's done, but it does, this community moves very, very fast. They're always doing something. So even though this is good research, things are changing, and they're ever changing in this community.
The second type of purchase is when you buy something from the secondary market. Say you buy Batman from another collector for $100, and in this case, only 2.5% is burned. Now, these are pretty small percentages, so the question is whether or not enough Omi is going to be burned in the foreseeable future to have a big impact on the price of the currency. And for that, I built a back of the envelope sales model based on where sales on the Veve platform might go from here. Now the starting point is this year, where the team has said they've made $25 million from NFT sales in the first half of the year.
25 million. I think, like, listen, I can't be 100% sure on the numbers, but I think with the last drop, we were over 40 million already for the year. So he doubled it for this year, and I believe we're already almost to where he put it at. But don't quote me on that. Let me know in the comment section if I'm wrong on that and we didn't hit that. But I'm pretty sure we were at like 25 million a while ago, and taking this into consideration, we're almost over his year one estimate already as it currently stands. I'm pretty sure we're almost over his year one estimate. So let me know in the comment section about that. But if that's the case, then obviously, things. What you have to understand is at the beginning of the year, things were still shaky. They didn't even have how many of each collectible they were going to sell and things like that, because they were expecting, like, the expectations for Veve was much lower than what actually happened with Veve. They did not expect this project to blow up this fast. So they have had to do a lot of adopting. There's been a lot of setbacks. There's a lot going on. So, and also keep in mind that a bunch of the features are not even available. So if they can do 50,000, like let's just say this numbers are accurate. Let's not even point out the fact that we might have done this already at the beginning of quarter two. But let's just say this is accurate. If you add on the Veveverse, all the upgradables and things like that, I mean, year two, this should much more than double, because it's going to have double the features that you're taking into consideration. So this is why this is still conservative. This is very, very conservative, because you're not taking into consideration the other means of actually burning Omi. So it only has two things when there's going to be multiple different ways to burn Omi, and multiple different burn rates depending on how you're doing it. Are you using Omi directly? Are you using gems? Like, what type of benefits comes with each? A lot of stuff that has yet to be determined from the team themselves. Yeah, it's like, it's not enough information just yet to be coming to such strong conclusions. And that's my opinion. We don't have enough information. I love videos like this, because with the research that has been done, and with what we currently know for 100% certainty, as far as the numbers and stuff of what's happened so far, yes, this can be accurate for that, but there's so much that we don't know, and that they're constantly doing and constantly changing, that it's inaccurate. It's inaccurate on that front. So, yeah.
So I'm going to give them a $50 million annual run rate. Now the next 2 years are estimates, and I'm going to take a bullish position here to begin with, and I'm going to let them double their revenue every year. So
yeah, and that's what I'll say. He says that this is bullish. He thinks that that's bullish. This is a $1 billion industry. Collectibles in general is a $1 billion industry, multi-billion dollar industry, and that's like, Veve is in the lead. So to think that this is bullish, I don't think that this is very bullish at all, since it doesn't even factor in a lot of what's to come. I think that this is more conservative. This, like, just doubling, okay. Even the crypto space moves faster than this, to be honest. But
so 100 million in year 2 and 200 million in year 3. Based on the burn percentage, this is how much would be burned and would need to be bought back. Okay, so that's the direct store purchases, but then you have secondary sales, which the team said would probably be double the primary sales. So let's just go with that amount for now. Based on the lower percentage here, this is what the buyback would look like. Remember, it's only 2.5% being burned on secondary sales. And so added together, what you see here is that about $6 million worth of buybacks would be made in the first year. And at the current price of $0.002, which again is just back of the envelope because I know the price fluctuates throughout the year, that comes out to 3 billion Omi coins being bought back, which sounds like a lot. However, this is only about 1% of the circulating supply for Omi. And for those more experienced Omi investors that may say that this supply number looks too high, that's because I'm adding the team's portion, as they own 20% of all the supply.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good calculation to add in, the team's revenue. And I see what he did, actually. The secondary sales he separated them. So this is from these two things. He's given them 150 million total. So taking that into consideration, it is much more reasonable. But at the same time, we don't know exactly what it's going to do. Like, because we don't know which brands that they plan to drop this year and when they plan to drop certain things. Like, we just had a big Louis V sale that went out instantly, damn near. Like, it went out in minutes. Louis V. And so we have brands like this being introduced. and we have other features and other token utility coming and things like that, it's like I said, it's still, the fact remains is it's very, very hard to try and calculate this when there are so many variables that you can't take into consideration, that you can't really factor in. So even though this is the best done video like this, in my opinion, the best done one that I have seen thus far, and it definitely should be considered when you're investing, you can't really say that, oh, this is going to be 100% accurate. Like, just like my opinions and my thoughts and why I'm so bullish on it, you can't hear me say the VVverse is going to come out and it's going to have way more burns than everything, because as opposed to burning and selling out in 10 minutes on one day of the week, they're going to be selling things 24/7 around the clock. All day, every day, they're going to be selling things, and burns is going to be coming from this. That's my interpretation of the VVverse. That's what it feels like to me is coming. But just like you cannot confirm his mathematics, you can't confirm my thoughts and my interpretation of the things that they have said. These are all still variables. So I am a bull, obviously, but at the same time, the bearish, the bearish point of view, like, it's more than likely the truth of what's going to happen is somewhere in the middle when you're taking his facts into consideration and the bull's point of view. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. What it seems like from my perspective is that I make realistic adjustments to my expectations based on the things that the team is doing, but I don't feel like he watches that enough or keeps up with that enough to make those same type of adjustments. Like, so, yeah. That being said, anyway, like I said, I still love this video.
And of course, over time, they'll sell part of that share as well, so I'm counting it here. Okay, so a 1% decrease in the supply in the first year is pretty small, and if we're honest, it probably won't have much of an impact on price at all. Well, then after that, things get even more interesting. And that's because if the idea is that Omi is supposed to get to the moon, then it's funny to see that in this burn and buyback system, there's something that basically acts as an anchor that will almost always keep Omi closer to the earth. And here's what I mean. If the price of Omi goes up, then that means you need to burn less Omi whenever an NFT is purchased. The simple example is that $100 today gets you about 50,000 Omi because of its price. But if that price 10x's from 0.002 to 0.02, then $100 only gets you 5,000 Omi. So the funny thing is that as price goes up, less Omi is burned, which means the buybacks get smaller. And buybacks were one of the key reasons people were buying in the first place. So there's almost like a
But this is the burn rates that we know of. So keep in mind, this is not adding any more. This is not taking into consideration any of the added utility that comes from like the VVverse and things like that. It's not added in any of like the gamification. Like this does not factor in a huge chunk of VV's selling point and why a lot of people bought in. Like, while this is the important things that's been going on thus far, them actually selling NFTs on drop days and then the secondary market is taking that into consideration. It's not taking into consideration everything else, which the bulls think that this is going to be the biggest things, like the VVverse and all of that. This is what we think is going to be the biggest things. I would definitely like to see him tackle this video again once that comes out, once the mathematics comes out and what the burn rates of the VVverse is going to be and things like that. Because then when the VVverse comes out, I think we can get a better picture and really understand what's realistic and not realistic. Because without that information, this can only be so accurate. So I'm looking forward to seeing some technical analysis that can actually be realistic, as opposed to just guessing, throwing in numbers and stuff like that when we don't know what is actually possible. So I definitely would like to see this revisited when we have more solid and concrete facts. So, yeah.
Restraining feedback loop that will keep it from going up in price way above where the fundamentals are. As you can see again in the model, I've made a scenario where the price 10x's from year 1 to year 3. And so even though in year 3 I have VV making $600 million in a year, which, you know, would make it one of the biggest games, not just NFT games, but games in the world, they still end up burning less than half of 1% of the supply. This makes you wonder why something like this would even 10x in the first place. To me, this doesn't make Omi a bad investment per se, but it does basically rule out the possibility that this is a moonshot token.
And yeah, that's what I mean. So you can't really rule out the possibility of it being a moonshot token when they haven't even really fully identified or said what the token is going to be. there's so much more utility that they haven't added. They don't know how much more utility is needed. They almost just did a whole little they almost just left a bunch of tokens behind. But then they came to the conclusion that we might not be able to. So basically, them just dumping tokens and getting rid of tokens out of circulation, that's not off the table. So with taking that into consideration, I think that it's very important to also point out the fact that the team knows that something about this circulating supply needs to be done. And they're already in talks about what needs to be done, what makes the most sense for where they currently are. So, like I said, like they said they were talking about leaving tokens behind, but something that they saw and that they know is coming and things like that, something made them say, we were going to leave tokens, but I don't think that that's the best move right now. So, like I said, it's just so much we don't know. What are they seeing? What type of data? What type of analytics? Because they came to the conclusion that, we got like a 50-year supply of tokens. We don't need that. But then they said, okay, we still might need to bring that with us. So, we can't know what made them make that decision. So, yeah, as an investor, I trust them. I believe in them. I believe they would not have my money if I didn't believe in them. So, let me put it that way. I just believe that they know more than I do, and with their information and their calculations and their numbers, I trust them, who knows the full picture even before we all can see it. Because we have to wait for the news to come out before we can really update our opinion of the vision. They know it because they're the ones building the vision and creating it. They've been seeing past us for the last 4 years. So, I mean, yeah, that's my perspective. They have the information that we don't have, and they're coming to certain conclusions. So they're not going to come to the conclusion that makes a bunch of the tokens that they hold be completely worthless. They're not coming to that conclusion. So it's in their best interest to get this token going, even for themselves. Even if you take all of us investors out of it, for themselves, it's in their best interest to constantly be working on it. So.
Because again, the higher the price goes up, the less value coin holders get from higher demand on Veve. And if you disagree with this analysis, I'm actually throwing this little model in a Google Doc link here in the description below. So if you come up with a scenario that makes more sense to you, tweet it out and I'm happy to talk about it. Now I can predict that some bullish investors will respond by saying, okay, Giancarlo, I get it. First few years aren't going to bring a big payday, but you know what? I'm not in it for the quick cash grab. These businesses take time to build. And so give it 5 to 10 years, and when the Veve multiverse hits, they're going to be making billions of dollars.
He said 5 to 10 years when the Veve multiverse hits. The Veve multiverse is hitting this year. So, yeah, you got to take that into consideration. The Veve multiverse has been confirmed to be hitting this year. That's been updated. That's changed. So, yeah, I mean, things are moving much quicker than people expected them to move. So, like I said, we don't know. It's just so much that we don't know. We didn't even know that it was going to hit this year. A lot of us were expecting like maybe year 2, 3, then we would see the multiverse. But no, we're going to see at least the first iteration of it this year. And yeah, I mean.
And so first, I think the buyback problem doesn't just go away. Well, let's put that aside for now and let's talk about long-term demand for Veve. I have 2 points about this, and the first is what I would call the Netflix dilemma. You see, when I was a stock analyst, I focused on digital media, and so I know the Netflix origin story pretty well. And there's a really interesting parallel to what might happen with Omi. And in fact, Ecomi even refers to Netflix a lot and sometimes even calls itself the Netflix of NFTs, so it's a perfectly fine comparison to make. So the story goes like this. Before Netflix, which sounds like a century ago, in the land before Netflix, people laughed off the idea of streaming, becoming a thing for TVs and movies. It was a product that no one really thought would grow beyond just a niche audience. And so Netflix went around to different studios and basically pitched them a deal to license a bunch of IP and brands that weren't getting, much use anyways. They were basically catalog TV shows and movies. And so Netflix was able to negotiate crazy license deals at steep discounts because the executives at these studios were like, you know what, this is like free money for a product line that we don't really think much about anyways. But then streaming did take off, and 2 things happened. First, Netflix had more competition instead of being the only one in town, which is how they started off. And so they didn't have the same leverage as before to get those discounts. So Amazon and Google came in, and today you have HBO and others, right? And second, the studios took a step back and said, you know what, wait a minute. Why am I giving you all this power in this new vertical that now we realize is completely changing the game? Why don't I just launch my own app?
So this is the same argument that we get a lot in the VV community, where it's like, why not just start our own project? And when you take into consideration the fact that a lot of these companies really make a lot of their money licensing out their IPs, that in itself, there's a lot of value in having someone else do it for you, especially some of the greatest ones in the world at doing it. You take into consideration the fact that this project is being promoted, and the one getting these opportunities is Alfred Kahn, the guy who got Pokemon to where it's at. See, it's very, yes, Netflix did a great job, but even Netflix is not as big as Pokemon. Or let's say Hello Kitty. Like you got the brands generating the most money in the world, and the guy who is behind helping them get to where they are currently right now, some of the most successful projects in the world. This is the guy behind this project. This is his skills with licensing. This is what he does. So even if a company was going to try to do something like this, he's probably one of the guys that they would try to consult to do it. Why wouldn't you just trust in that guy? So I feel like there's a strong case to be made that they're trusting Veve for a reason. They're seeing this vision because a lot of these people didn't even want to touch the crypto space at all. So yeah, let's say maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the line, they may finally be ready to try to do their own things with this. But I don't think that they're nowhere near trying to go from not wanting to touch crypto at all to now they're starting to have a whole little crypto NFT platforms and stuff like that. I just don't see that happening. And also, it's beneficial to have your product being somewhere where you can have people see you who aren't just fans of. So for instance, Disney. Some people who watch Disney are only fans of Disney. But now, since you have DC Comics things on Veve, Jurassic Park, you have Louis Vuitton, you have all these different brands in one place. Now people who wouldn't necessarily be willing to buy something to your brand, now they hop on, they see, oh, an NFT for this brand, like I might as well get that. I like that too. Now you have more chances to sell or a bigger audience, a pool of people to sell your product to that you wouldn't have at just your own little personal place. So I don't think that this is an industry that's going to work the same as, okay, we got a bunch of great movies and these movies are so classic that people are going to go get those platforms because they love the movies that much. I think that this is one of these places where it benefits more so being in the community with a bunch of collectors. That's like Comic-Con. That's like everybody who goes to Comic-Con just making their own version of Comic-Con. Imagine a freaking Batman Con or something like that. It's like, it makes more sense to have the entire community here, more so than just everybody doing their own things. And I think that that's the collecting world. So that's the comparison. That's what a comparison kind of doesn't hold up for me, because you do have things like Comic-Con where it makes more sense for everybody to be together in this space, in the collectible space, more so than everybody trying to do their own thing in the collectible space.
And so today you see the result of that with the existence of 100 different video streaming apps. And for example, Disney has been able to grow so big that even they might knock Netflix off the top spot. Actually, the only way Netflix survived at all is because they had a world-class team that recognized what was happening and pivoted into original content as their main strategy, not licensing. It's gotten to the point where Netflix is now releasing a
You would also have to look into the licensors as well. Like, shout out to Netflix for what they've done, but I doubt they had licensors with the credentials of Al Khan. It probably was seen more so as a joke, but when Al Khan walks up to you with a deal, the king of licensing, he's literally in the licensing hall of fame. When a licensing hall of famer walks up to you with a idea and with something going on, it's not the same aura, I feel like, unless it's somebody, unless the person in charge of Netflix licensing is on the same level as Al Khan. I think there probably is a different level of respect going into that meeting. Obviously, anybody want easy money, but when you see Al Khan coming to you with an idea and with a plan, it's probably not we're going to use him for easy money type of thing. This is the guy who is generating billions and billions of dollars throughout his career. Like, it's a different level of respect when Al Khan walks into a room. Even though these brands are very big, Al Khan walking into a meeting and then some unknown people walking into a meeting or some lower tier marketers or licensors, it's different. It's a very different story. So,
major original movie every single week. Okay, so why am I bringing this up? because there's a scary analogy to the story of Ecomi and Veve. You see, Ecomi basically also went around to studios about 2 years ago before anyone outside of a tiny crypto group knew what an NFT was and what the potential could be. I'm guessing they pitched it purely as digital collectibles, which to the studios just sounded like free money, right? And coming from something that probably would never be a huge market to them.
And that's what I mean. Like, see, he's thinking of it as this in the same terms of, okay, this is the Netflix view. I actually do want to, let me know in the comments section, was it somebody important behind Netflix when it first came out as far as licensing goes? Because he's thinking of it as, oh, we're not going to take this serious. This is just free money. When in reality, this is Al Khan and David Yu. Like, look at the history of these licensors stepping into a room. They're going to be heard because of what they have spent their entire careers doing with these licenses. These guys are putting Yu-Gi-Oh cards on the market and Pokemon cards and literally bringing Pokemon to the mainstream. It's different with this team. And I don't think that it's just as simple as, we just want some money. Like, let's just get some money from this. I don't think, especially, they were convinced to put some of their licensing into the crypto world when everybody was talking about crypto is a scam. They were convincing them to agree to put their product on what everybody thought was a scam. Like, it's just a different level of respect. Netflix, I don't think Netflix could have talked somebody into putting their product onto the blockchain when everybody's saying it's a scam. It's a completely different level of respect.
Fast forward to today, and we live in a completely different world, right? NFTs have arrived, and there are people now at every studio and publisher thinking, whoa, this is actually a thing. You know, what are we going to do here? And just like in the Netflix scenario, Ecomi is going to have way more competition over the next couple of years than they did in the prior two. Best case scenario is they managed to renew their licenses, but at much higher cost than what they paid in the past.
And that's the thing. I don't think that Veve is going to have the same type of competition as well. Because one thing that they have said that they've done is in the way that Veve does their NFTs, they have exclusivity to do it. So you may be able to come out with a Pokemon card NFT, or let's say something they actually have. Let's say you have a Batman card NFT. You can do a Batman card NFT, but these high quality Batman 3D NFT collectibles that's able to be put into a world that's like the Disneyland of NFTs, only Veve can do that. This can only be done on Veve. So the Veve's exclusivity and their experience with licensing, see, that's the thing. If you are not an expert at licensing, then yes, you may get put into a deal where it could be much more risky for you. But these guys have been doing licensing for their entire careers. They have 20 plus years apiece in licensing, and you all know their history if you've looked into them. So you think these guys are going to get the same type of deal and bet their whole careers, do you think these guys are going to come together so they can get screwed? No, these guys know what they're doing when it comes down to licensing. So the deals that they made, especially foreseeing the future of where this could go, where the potential could be, they've made deals more than likely that's going to make sense for the future of Veve as well. Especially since they already came into this expecting it to be around 10, 15, 20 years. They came into this saying this. So this was never a short-term thing for them. They came in expecting competitors in some format, but just having an NFT or just having NFTs don't make you a real competitor. So
in the case of Netflix, stock analysts estimated that it went from $180 million to $1.98 billion in licensing costs in just 2 years. So that's best case scenario. And worst case scenario is they lose the licenses either to a competitor or because the studios just decided to launch their own NFT products direct to consumer. And then you have to bet that the guys behind Veve are as world class in pivoting as the Netflix team, which is probably, in the top 0.001% of executive teams in the world.
I mean, as far as hoping that the Veve team is as good at pivoting, I mean, Al Khan seems to have pivoted from Pokemon to Hello Kitty to Ninja Turtles to, Cabbage Patch Kids to, should we keep going? Like, they have a good history. Let's just say they have a good history of pivoting and going to different things. Like, so like I said, and honestly, it's all in the same space. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. So I'm not really concerned at the comparison towards Netflix and what they were doing, because this isn't something that they have been doing for their entire careers. It's not like this is something new that they're jumping into. They all have been into collectibles and licensing, and It's a bunch of people in here with tons of experience. Like if you look at David Yu, look at the CEO of Ecomi, he himself has been in so many of his licensing projects for years, for decades. So you should look into the team and you'll know. You're more than likely, I cannot imagine the Netflix team is as impressive on resume wise as the Ecomi team. I just can't imagine that. But I do have to do more research on them. It would be interesting to see who's in charge of the licensing and stuff like that.
So in a way, Veve could be a victim of its own success, and the further you stretch the timeline, the more risky their business model is.
But also, this was put into motion years. They were planning for this to be something that was long term from the beginning. So taking that into consideration, if they're this much of visionaries, they're this forward seeing where they were working on something that blew up this year, they've been working on it for years. Is it likely that they did not take this into consideration when this is what they've been planning for from the start? They knew where this was going to go. So it only makes sense. And look at the teams that they're hiring. Look at their marketing agency, their PR agency. Look at who they have on their team. They're getting game developers from League of Legends and from Riot. Like this is who they have. They have people working from Respawn, Activision. They have these people working with them. So it's like they're playing in a different league and they're at the top of their game and they're visionary. So I don't agree with a lot. I don't agree with a lot, but I see where his points are coming from. But it's just you have to really know the nuances of who they're working with, what they're doing, what's really going on. It's just a lot. It's a lot of stuff that. It's a lot of ways this comparison just does not work. They're playing at different levels from the jump.
And as an investor, when you buy Omi, you're making a very centralized bet on the team and their ability to maintain and grow these licenses as the market changes and the studios realize how much money can be made with NFTs. The other point is that you're also betting on the team being able to grow the utility of the NFT from where it is today. Right now, the utility is pretty low, right? In most cases, you're just buying an image that you can look at. And, you know, I know they have the AR gimmick where you can take photos of your NFT in a room, and that's...
I mean, you buy this is the collectibles industry, so you're making it boring, but I mean, you take the collectibles industry in general, well, you're just buying a magazine and all you can really do is look at it, then you take a picture of it and post it. It's boring. If you say it like that, the industry in itself is boring, but it doesn't change it from being a $1 billion industry. And also, it doesn't change the fact that this is taking you sit in a comic book on a stand somewhere or some statue on a shelf somewhere to now you can take this boring, coming from the boring of how collecting actually is, this is like revolutionary. You can actually pose with your NFT. Like you can pose in a whole virtual world. You can play games with your NFTs and things like this. This is different. It takes one boring and makes it how you making it sound. It makes it a different type of boring, but it's still way better than the original boring. So, I mean, it's just perspective how you look at it. If you're comparing this to Fortnite, then of course Veve is horrible if you're comparing it to Fortnite. We're not comparing it to Fortnite though. We're comparing it to regular collecting. You get a freaking Yu-Gi-Oh card and you hold on to it. That's boring. You put that Yu-Gi-Oh card on the shelf. Boring. But if you actually are able to take that Yu-Gi-Oh card, it has that value and you're playing with it in the app, and none of that's confirmed for Veve. I'm just saying it's an example. So you get what I mean.
That's cool, but it's not enough to make this a $1 billion business. In my opinion, you need a game attached to this. You know, something like Pokemon Go to...
That's preference. I feel like needing a game attached to this, and I mean, yeah, that does make it stand out a lot, but the collectibles industry did not really need a game attached to the collectibles industry for people to see the value in working with or obtaining things from these IPs. The collectibles industry is already a $1 billion industry. All Veve is doing is pulling on the industry that already exists. They don't have to create consumers for this industry. They're already there. All they have to do is let these consumers know why Veve is the future more so than the old way of collecting. Or Veve is something that can be done alongside the old way of collecting and used in a way where if you have certain things on Veve, you get benefits for holding certain comics, or like there's different ways to have the token work with real life collecting that's already a $1 billion industry. So it's not really the same.
$1 billion business. In my opinion, you need a game attached to this. You know, something like Pokemon Go to really make this a special product. And
it's already a special product like that. See, when you're not really taking into consideration the fact that where collecting is and where Veve is taking collecting, this is already a special product even without a game. Now, yes, games and stuff, Veve, that's in the plans. But as it stands, Veve is a special product already, and you have to be able to see that.
And I think most Omi investors would probably agree with that. The issue is that making something like Pokemon Go is very hard, much harder than what Ecomi has built so far with the Veve app. And if you remember Pokemon Go, even that game had a super rocky start and generally had a ton of glitches, even though Niantic, which was the team behind the app, were very experienced game developers who had already built a similar game at scale with Ingress.
Is Niantic, I mean, Niantic is nice, but they're getting people from Riot, Respawn, Activision, like, it's not like they're just getting random developers straight out of school. They're like, Veve is getting top quality everything. They are top quality everything. So basically, the way you're saying it, you're making it seem as though Netflix had a superior team and they still struggled. This app had a superior team and they still. You cannot argue that these companies have a superior team than the Veve team, and that's what makes this such a valuable investment. It's very hard to argue a team is more valuable. Like, they are getting people from the biggest the biggest gaming companies in the world, the biggest licensors in the world, the biggest marketing agencies in the world. Like, this is who Veve is securing. They're not securing second best, they're securing first best. So, I mean,
yeah, even they struggled. On the other hand, if we look at Ecomi, these are media and business development guys. Yes, they have experience with licensing, and I don't doubt that they're good at getting those deals, but they're not experienced in building anything like a collectible game or a multiverse at scale. So while
Trevor is part of the Veve team, so technically that's false. Trevor is just the lead. Like, the other companies and things they're working with behind the scenes, like I said, like Spider-Man, that was a pretty big game. Like, I mean, they are very experienced. I don't know if this guy knows that. Like, this is stuff that you may actually have to be in the community and know. But yeah, like, Veve is working with some of the biggest people in gaming, just as they're working with some of the biggest licensors and things like that, or they are some of the biggest licensors. So they're not just getting random people and trying to throw something together for the first time.
In theory, there's a lot of potential in what they could do with the app. The ideas that we talk about are all good ones. The challenge is going to be in the execution. And with this team, I see it being a big risk factor. Now, with all that said,
it definitely is a big risk factor. It's a risk. I mean, but it's a risk for any team. Each year that they make Call of Duty, it's a risk if that's going to be a successful Call of Duty or if that's going to be the Call of Duty that literally kills the franchise. Anything is a risk, but I mean, if you want a team with a plan and the team most likely to be able to execute that plan, I mean, I would put my money on the Ecomi team any day. I just believe in this team. So, yeah, I would not trade the Ecomi team for the Netflix team. I would not trade the Ecomi team for like any other team. Like, I would not trade them for Niantic. I just would not trade. I wouldn't make that trade. I would bet on the Ecomi team.
I actually plan to end on a positive note because I do think there's potential here for people to make money in the next 12 to 24 months. But it's not with buying Omi. It's with buying the actual NFTs in the Veve app. Remember, in my sales model, I actually painted a picture where Veve could become a huge app with a lot of demand. The issue was just that it didn't flow into the token in the way you would expect. It didn't result in a much higher price for Omi. But if Veve does
and that's historically. Historically, the utility of the token is just not there. But that's because they're still early on in the production of this project. They have literally just got the project to the point where you can buy an NFT and it actually works when you try to buy an NFT. It doesn't lag. It doesn't have errors and things like that. They've just made the Veve app solid. So they were working on this. They were working on scaling it to the point where they could go from the 5,000 users that they knew they were able to handle to explode into 300,000. So now that that's taken care of, they can just now start getting into some of the other stuff. So all of this stuff is stuff you have to take into consideration. This is why certain performance is slowed down. Like, literally for almost a whole month, Veve were stopping themselves from growing. They did not want this promoted to any more people because they just could not handle it.
Become that big, that means that there's going to be way more demand for these collectibles, especially the earlier ones. So you have a similar dynamic that I pointed out in Blanco's Block Party, which is a new NFT game that is likely to blow up in the coming years. I have a video up here where a certain type of investor can make a good amount of money just holding and waiting for the platform to hit the mainstream, or by flipping and being, a more active sniper. This is a much better way to profit from Veve blowing up compared to Omi, which just isn't designed to track the growth of the app in the way that some people think.
And we that's what I'm saying. Like the design that he's talking about, you don't know the full design yet. It's just all the information is not available. So I can get how you can get to certain conclusions if you only take available information, but it's so much more. It's so much more information that you're not considering when you come to these conclusions. So yes, the NFTs is definitely going to be valuable. This is the collectibles industry, $1 billion industry. These are going to be valuable. But at the same time, you can't count the token out when they haven't even really focused on bringing the value and the utility to the token. If you have something like these scam coins coming up, their project blows up, and then they just start pulling things out the ass to keep their project alive and start creating utility, creating exchanges and things like that. You think an actual business that was planned from years and years ago and started, and they were securing hundreds of licenses and things like that, you think that they don't have a plan that they can start putting into effect to bring more utility to the token? Like I said, I'll say it and I'll say it again. If I'm going to bet on a team to make this project work, and on all fronts, it would be the Ecomi team.
Last thing I'd say on this point is to have some caution, because at this stage you aren't able to sell your NFTs outside the platform or cash out any of the profits in gems back into Omi.
Even more, you're pointing out reasons why the Veve app is still not even fully functional. So obviously, yes, they're taking their time focusing on getting the Veve app together how it should be, because that is really what's going to be moving Omi. But they can't focus too heavily on Omi if Veve isn't even functioning properly. So yeah, I mean, you have valid points up until the point where all the stuff they have in their plans start to come out. So it's important to keep that in mind and to really understand all the plans and see how the full vision of where this is going.
So they probably shouldn't even be defined as true NFTs yet. Now, I do believe they have confirmed that this feature is coming soon and that they're working on it, but
we're moving over to Immutable X, and yeah, like when we move to Immutable X, there's going to be a lot of things that comes, including the fact that we will be officially real NFTs, and yeah, all of that's supposed to be coming, but we have to wait till we get to Immutable, because there's a lot of restrictions on GoChain, and they have confirmed that GoChain is terrible for getting on exchanges and things like that. So yeah, I mean, GoChain is just not. It was good to start the development of this project, but as this project advanced and improved, they outgrew it, and now they're going over to Ethereum. So,
but in the meantime, this is just another risk that you have to keep in mind. So in conclusion, if you do believe that much in Veve, then just buy the NFTs, not Omi. And if you're buying Omi because you believe in NFTs in general, and you don't really care about actively buying and selling the NFTs themselves, then honestly, my recommendation is to just buy Ethereum instead, because that's where 90% of NFT developers are going right now. And by buying Ethereum, you're not making a centralized bet on just one NFT platform.
I have an investment in Ethereum as well. By the way, I'm invested in Ethereum, but my bigger bet is on Omi and the particular team and this company. I place my bet on this company, not the space as a whole, because yeah, the space as a whole will be well, and that's why I am invested in Ethereum as well. But I place my bets on this team in particular because some team has to win. And if a team is going to win, I believe that it can be the Omi team.
You're making a more diversified bet on the NFT space as a whole, which is probably a better idea. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful, and I'll catch you again in the next video.
So yeah, as you see, this was an amazing video. I told you all this was a great video. I can't really knock him on his opinions. He really backed it up with a lot of facts and things like that. But there was, as you can see, there were some things that he doesn't know. There's nuances and stuff that he doesn't know, or maybe he doesn't take into consideration things that are not 100% confirmed or not 100% just there yet. So, I mean, yeah. That being said, man, let me know y'all thoughts on this video. Let me know y'all thoughts on him. Definitely check him out. Check out his channel. Subscribe. I love the video. He did a very good job for this video using the information that he had at his disposal. But yeah, I'm still on the other side. But more videos like this, I feel like it's going to be very, very valuable to the community because this causes great, great discussions. This is the type of videos we need. This is the type of devil's advocate that we need in this community. So let me know y'all thoughts. Be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. Peace out, Joe.